Following another episode bringing another death in the latest season of Yellowstone, who's everyone saying is going to be on the chopping block next? Cause it feels like that's a theme that's starting to occur. 3 deaths in 4 episodes. I say that in jest, but there's a part of me that genuinely thinks Taylor Sheridan is going to kill off somebody else, because why the hell not? Anyway, with Kayce counting coup and threatening Grant at the end of the most recent episode, and Jamie looking like he might well have just taunted the police into getting a search warrant for his house following the death of Sarah, the both of them may have just played a little too close to the fire for their own good, and they might now get burned. With a preview for the next episode being released at the end of the most recent episode, let's break the most important parts of it down, and I'll also give my theories and predictions on what I think could happen next. So let's get into it. Here is Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 13, Trailer Explained and Theories. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The preview for the next episode opened up with Rip and Beth having a conversation, and Rip saying the line, "How am I supposed to run a ranch if you sell everything we own?" Beth then replied by saying, "There is no solution, we're just buying time." Rip's arc in this season is that of wanting to stay on the land and preserve the traditions of the cowboy industry and the old ways that the cowboy would operate. Rip is obviously not opposed to selling things on the Dutton Ranch because at one point in episode 12 it looked like he was planning on selling the lot, such as the cattle and the horses. However, I'm going to imagine that Beth is going to be taking things a level further. Maybe tying back into that deal that it looked like she was going to be making with Thomas Rainwater. Something that I think could well happen because it'll tie back into the 1883 promise that was made between James Dutton and the Native American that gave him the land. I think there's going to be some kind of divide between Rip and Beth that forms over the next 2 episodes. Not a relationship-shattering one, but one which just shows us the different points in life that they're at and the directions that they want to take, considering all that's going on with the ranch being taken and Beth's father being killed. Rip is almost embodying that mindset that John Dutton had in trying to hold on to something that simply wasn't working. And he's even got that mindset of him when it comes to the old traditional way of a cowboy. Something which caused the Yellowstone Ranch to suffer for such a long time because John Dutton didn't want to open it up and change his ways. Beth was even trying to get John to take on new business opportunities moments before his death, and he chose not to. And it feels like Rip kind of has that head too. This is where I feel Beth and Rip differ. Beth has almost come to terms with the fact that they're not going to be able to keep a hold of all of the land. Hence why she said to Rip that they were just simply buying time. Beth told Rip how she wanted to travel, and we saw that she was learning Italian when she was driving back in the car from Texas. So I feel like with her father gone, she's almost lost the heart and soul that kept her there. She even said to Monica that there was no other room that she'd like to go in when in the house other than in the living room. So I feel she's almost done with it, despite the family legacy that's been there since the late 1800s. That's why I think she's going to be selling all that she can to try and save the ranch, but then, if not, use the money to put towards something else. And that very thing could be centered around her and Rip getting away. In another part of the trailer, Rip said the line to Lloyd that he wanted him to stay home, to which Lloyd responded by saying, "Ain't nothing to stay home for," to which Rip then replied and said, "Yeah, there is, when we build it back." Rip clearly doesn't want to give up on the Dutton Ranch, and he might well have some different ideas about how he's going to save it. Lloyd was doubting in the most recent episode whether or not he was going to be staying there, and was looking at other ranches up and down the country, so we know that he's definitely open to moving on, especially if things change. If Lloyd's head is like that, and he's been there for most of his life, I think it's telling of the situation and mindset of most of the people in the bunkhouse. When it came to what Kayce did at the end of episode 12 in going after Grant for organizing the hit of John Dutton and him then threatening Grant's family in response, it seems like Kayce is going to be telling Monica what he got up to on the night that he was away. There was a line in the preview, "What happens if they come after you, or Tate, or any of us?" This is something that I originally thought could happen when Kayce did it. Obviously, Grant knew of what Kayce used to do because he told him. Plus, he also had a ton of information on Grant and his family, so that could have been enough to have deterred him from retaliating. But I feel like the story almost doesn't go anywhere if there's no response from Grant. So I'm expecting there to be some kind of retaliation on Kayce's family for his actions at the end of episode 12. I'm wondering if maybe they'll go after his sister, Beth, and that could then be what's connected to Rip and Lloyd disposing of that body and driving off after burning the car in the trailer. Maybe they're going to end up getting revenge after something happens to Beth. I liked what Kayce did at the end of episode 12 because it reminded me of the type of thing that James Dutton would have probably done back in 1883 when looking to protect his family. That blood was still running through Kayce. With regards to Jamie in the trailer, there was a shot of him walking around and there were FBI agents that were present. This to me shows that the detective is most probably going to have got that warrant that he wanted so that he could search Jamie's house to look for Sarah's belongings. And then, when they search, I think they're going to find something that they think is suspicious, whether it be connected to the death of John Dutton or the death of Sarah. Let's remember, there was that burner phone that Sarah smashed up and threw out in the kitchen. If Jamie doesn't know about that and hasn't taken out the trash, then the police will most likely find that when they carry out their searches. One of the more poignant moments in the trailer, though, was of Beth and Jamie on the phone, and it seemed like they were talking to one another. Beth said the line, "You having fun yet?" To which Jamie responded and said, "You destroy me, you destroy yourself." This ties back to what Beth said in the most recent episode, where she said to Kayce that he'd destroy the family name in order to save himself. This essentially means that if Jamie were to be interrogated by the police, he'd drag the Dutton name through the mud and expose all of the secrets, lies, and deaths that have occurred on the ranch and point them all towards the train station. This is why I think Beth and Kayce will do what they can to keep Jamie out of the hands of the authorities, so that they can deal with him themselves. There was a point where it felt like Beth and Sarah were going to be at it with one another, but now that she's been taken out, I think the season finale is going to have the all-out Jamie and Beth feud coming to a head, and only one of them making it out alive. This rivalry has been fierce for seasons, but I remember in Season 5 Episode 1, there was this shot which really showed that this was going to be the season where they truly went up against one another, and I do think that's going to be the case. I don't see a world where Jamie makes it out alive. Jamie knew about John Dutton's death. He's lost his position as Attorney General for the time being due to conflicting interests. He's lost his family, and he's also lost the one person that actually cared about him and he cared for, Sarah. Everything is going wrong for him, and I feel like that's going to continue to happen. There was a scene in the wider trailer for Season 5 Part 2 where Jamie was leaving the stables with a gun. So I'm wondering what's going to end up happening to have 1, led him back to the ranch, and 2, to have a gun in his hand and make it look like he's on some kind of mission. So it's going to be explosive for sure. So, there you have it. Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 13, Trailer Explained and Theories. If you want to see more videos on Yellowstone, then click on the card in the top corner. There's an entire playlist there. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think will happen next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.